Objects tell stories that words alone cannot convey. A scratched vinyl record, a carefully folded plastic bag, a patched piece of fabric, a repurposed jar. These aren't just things, they're evidence, they're testimony. They're the material culture of Black family life in the 1970s, when economic hardship was the baseline condition and resilience wasn't inspirational rhetoric, but survival necessity. The 1970s were a specific historical moment for Black America. The civil rights movement had formally concluded, but the promised changes hadn't materialized. Black families faced systemic discrimination in housing, employment, and access to credit. Poverty was widespread. Jobs were uncertain. Education was unequal. Yet, inside homes across Black America, families were managing, coping, creating, and persisting. The objects they surrounded themselves with, ordinary things, everyday items, tell the story of that perseverance. These household items weren't chosen for their aesthetic value or their aspirational qualities. They were chosen because they worked, because they were affordable, because they could be repurposed, because they solved immediate problems. Looking at these objects now, decades later, we see not just poverty, but ingenuity, not just struggle, but determination, not just hardship, but humor, creativity, and love. Plastic grocery bags saved and reused. Families kept plastic bags from grocery stores, saving them in drawers and cabinets, reusing them for trash, storage, carrying things, and countless other purposes. A single bag might be used 5, 10, 20 times before it wore out. Waste was not something to generate casually. Every resource, no matter how small, was potentially valuable. Money was so tight that even the 5-cent value of a trash bag was worth conserving. The accumulation of plastic bags in a drawer revealed a family that thought economically about every item, that understood that small savings accumulated into meaningful resources. Those saved bags became shopping bags, trash bags, storage containers, toys for kids, and emergency supplies. A bag that a wealthier family would immediately throw away became a tool with multiple uses. This wasn't deprivation, it was efficiency and smart thinking. The simple act of saving plastic bags represented the psychological stance that characterized resilient families. Nothing was waste if you could think creatively about its use. Bags were kept because you never knew when you might need one. The accumulation represented possibility. Aluminum foil and plastic wrap used sparingly and reused. Families used aluminum foil and plastic wrap carefully, washing and reusing pieces multiple times before discarding them. The roll lasted much longer because it was used consciously rather than casually. Food storage was expensive. Wrapping materials had a per-use cost that families had to manage. The careful, reused foil revealed a household where every material had been counted and the budget for kitchen supplies was tight. This wasn't carelessness with resources, it was precision management. Reusing plastic wrap meant rinsing it carefully, drying it, and storing it for the next use. It meant understanding that the function of plastic wrap, protecting food, remained even if the wrap was slightly torn or wrinkled. It meant that food preservation was more important than pristine materials. The reuse of foil and plastic wrap represented the understanding that the function of something was more important than its newness. A slightly worn piece of plastic wrap still protected food. A used piece of foil still covered a dish. Why discard something that still worked? Mason jars of every size used as glasses and storage. Mason jars, originally containers for preserving food, were saved and repurposed as drinking glasses, storage containers for buttons or sewing supplies, vases, utensils holders, and general household storage. A well-stocked home might have dozens of mason jars in various sizes, all serving purposes beyond their original intention. Glassware was expensive. A set of drinking glasses from a store could cost $15 to $20, significant money in a 1970s budget. Mason jars were free if you bought canned goods, or very inexpensive to purchase. Using them as glasses meant a family had glassware without having to budget for glassware. The variety of sizes revealed a family that noticed what they had and found uses for all of it. Mason jars worked perfectly as drinking glasses. They were durable, clear so you could see what you were drinking, and came in sizes for different purposes. A small jar for juice, a larger jar for water, a quart-sized jar for milk. The transparency meant they also worked as vases, allowing flowers or dried flowers to be displayed. The jars with lids became storage for everything from buttons to sugar to leftovers. The use of mason jars as everyday glassware represented the refusal to distinguish between proper and improper materials. A jar served the same function as a glass. Why insist on having expensive, fragile glassware when jars worked? This practical philosophy freed resources for other needs. 4. Newspaper used as insulation, wrapping, and lining. Newspapers were saved and used as insulation in poorly weatherproofed homes, as wrapping material for storing clothes, as lining for shelves and drawers, and as general padding material. Many Black families in the 1970s lived in substandard housing. Apartments were cold in winter and hot in summer. Landlords didn't maintain properties adequately. Families had to insulate windows and walls themselves using available materials. The newspaper lining walls represented a family managing poor housing conditions through creative intervention. Newspaper was free and abundant. Using it as insulation was unconventional but effective. The multiple layers of newspaper actually provided some thermal protection. Using it as shelf lining protected surfaces and could be changed when it became soiled. As wrapping material for storing seasonal clothes, it protected from dust and insects. The use of newspaper as insulation represented both the reality of poor housing and the determination to make homes more comfortable despite inadequate landlord maintenance. Families weren't waiting for help, they were solving problems themselves. The newspaper on windows represented resilience in the face of systemic housing discrimination. 5. Butter tubs and food containers repurposed for storage. Every plastic or disposable containers from store-bought food was saved. Butter tubs, sour cream containers, whipped topping bowls, ice cream buckets. These were used for storing leftover food, organizing small items, and general household storage. The household had limited resources for storage solutions. Plastic storage containers from Rubbermaid or Tupperware were luxury items. Using containers from food purchases was economical and practical. The variety of container sizes revealed a family that saved everything and found uses for all of it. These containers had lids, which made them perfect for storing leftovers. They were stackable, which made them efficient for storage. The various sizes meant you could match the container to what you were storing. Over time, a family accumulated dozens of containers, a complete storage system that cost nothing. The accumulation of food containers in a household represented a family that understood waste as a failure of imagination. What could be reused? What could be stored? What could be purposed? The containers weren't decorative or uniform, they were functional and varied. That mattered less than their utility. Worn blankets repurposed as curtains, rugs, or dividers. Blankets that were worn or damaged, thin from washing, small tears, faded from use, were repurposed rather than discarded. They became curtains, rugs for covering worn floors, room dividers, or quilts. New curtains and rugs were expensive purchases. A blanket that was no longer good for sleeping could still serve these purposes. The use of worn blankets revealed a home where waste was minimized and every object was expected to have multiple lives. A worn blanket as a curtain still provided privacy and light control. As a floor covering, it hid worn flooring or added warmth. As a room divider, it created separate spaces in small apartments. The worn nature of the blanket actually added character to rooms. The visible wear was evidence of use and care. The repurposing of worn blankets represented the understanding that usefulness extended beyond original purpose. An object wasn't worn out until it literally couldn't be used for anything. Each transformation represented creative thinking and the refusal of premature disposal. Light bulbs carefully managed and moved between fixtures as needed. In a time before LED bulbs, light bulbs were an expense that families managed carefully. Bulbs were moved between fixtures based on need rather than having multiple bulbs in use simultaneously. If you needed light in the living room, you moved the bulb from the bedroom. The electricity bill was a significant household expense. Families limited the number of bulbs in use and the time they were on. The practice of moving bulbs revealed a household where every financial expense, including electricity, was carefully managed. The cost of replacing burned-out bulbs was significant enough that families tried to extend bulb life. By moving bulbs to where they were needed, families minimized the number of bulbs they had to purchase. By limiting the number of bulbs in use, they reduced electricity consumption and the resulting bills. The practice required planning and coordination, but resulted in real savings. The movement of light bulbs represented the reality that every utility cost, even something as small as electricity, had to be managed. It represented a household where budgeting extended to the level of light bulbs, where every expense was considered and rationalized. Cardboard boxes converted into furniture or storage. Large cardboard boxes from appliances, electronics, or bulk purchases were kept and repurposed as storage containers, shelving, or even furniture. A sturdy box could become a nightstand, a storage bench, or a shelving unit. Furniture was expensive. A nightstand might cost $30 to $50, significant money for a family on a tight budget. A cardboard box cost nothing if you'd received an appliance or purchase in one. The use of cardboard boxes as furniture revealed both economic constraint and creative problem solving. Cardboard boxes were strong enough to function as furniture for lighter items. They could be stacked to create shelving. They could be covered with fabric to look more intentional. Multiple boxes could be arranged to create a storage wall. The utility of cardboard was limited. It wouldn't support heavy weight, but for many purposes, it was sufficient. The use of cardboard boxes as furniture represented the acceptance of unconventional solutions. Furniture didn't have to look like store-bought furniture to be functional. A box covered with a sheet served the same purpose as an expensive nightstand. Form followed function. Aesthetics were secondary to practicality. Worn clothes transformed into other items, rags, stuffing, patches. Clothing that was too worn to wear was cut up and transformed. Old t-shirts became rags for cleaning. Worn clothing became stuffing for pillows or quilts. Small pieces became patches for other clothing. Nothing was completely discarded. The lifespan of clothing was expected to extend far beyond wearability. Even when a garment could no longer be worn, it still had value. The transformation of old clothes revealed a household where the full utility of an item was extracted before it was finally discarded. Rags made from old clothes were perfect for cleaning. They absorbed liquid, they could be washed and reused, and they were free. Clothing stuffing made from worn garments was functional. A pillow filled with old t-shirt pieces was comfortable. Patches made from fabric scraps extended the life of other clothing. Nothing was wasted. The transformation of worn clothes represented the understanding that an object's life could be extended through reimagining. A shirt that could no longer be worn could still serve in a different form. This represented both economic necessity and a creative spirit that found new purposes for old things. 10. Coffee cans used as containers for everything. Metal coffee cans were saved and used as containers for nails and screws, sewing supplies, buttons, utensils, and virtually any small item that needed organizing and storing. Organizational systems and storage containers were expensive or non-existent. Coffee cans were free if you purchased coffee, or very inexpensive. The prevalence of coffee cans in a home revealed a family that drank coffee regularly and that saved the cans for utility rather than discarding them. Coffee cans had lids, making them perfect for storing things that needed protection. The cylindrical shape made them stackable and efficient. The metal wouldn't deteriorate. The cans could be labeled or decorated. Over time, a family accumulated dozens, creating an entire organizational system from saved cans. The use of coffee cans as storage containers represented the understanding that containers didn't have to be purchased. They could be collected and accumulated from regular purchases. The cans were humble and unconventional, but they worked. Their presence in a home represented both practicality and the refusal to be limited by not having proper storage solutions. 11. Rubber bands, string, and twist ties saved in a drawer. Every rubber band, piece of string, and plastic twist tie was saved in a drawer dedicated to these small but useful items. These materials were reused for bundling, tying things, and countless other purposes. These small items had value. They were saved rather than discarded because they were useful and because purchasing replacements cost money. The drawer dedicated to these items revealed a household where even the smallest materials were valued and organized. Rubber bands bundled items together. String tied things closed or secured items. Twist ties closed bags of food. Reusing these items meant not having to purchase replacements. Over time, the savings from reusing small materials accumulated into meaningful resources. The saving of rubber bands, string, and twist ties represented the understanding that nothing was too small to save. The drawer itself was a statement about the value of small things. In a household where every dollar mattered, these small materials weren't insignificant. They were important enough to organize and maintain. Old towels and washcloths repurposed into cleaning materials. Towels and washcloths that wore thin or developed holes were kept and cut into rags for cleaning. A worn bath towel could become multiple cleaning cloths. Cleaning supplies were an expense, particularly if purchased from stores. Old towels becoming cleaning rags meant the household could clean effectively without purchasing paper towels or commercial cleaning cloths. The practice represented both economic constraint and practical thinking. Towel rags were durable and absorbent, perfect for cleaning. They could be washed and reused indefinitely. The thickness of towel material meant they lasted longer than commercial cleaning cloths. A single worn towel could provide months of cleaning materials. The transformation of worn towels into cleaning materials represented the refusal to discard items that still had utility. The worn towels were evidence of a household that used items completely before moving on to something new. This is only part of the story. There are so many more household items that carried families through hard times with strength and grace. If any of these feel familiar, or if your family had their own versions, share them in the comments. I'll be reading through them and featuring some in part 2. And if you want to keep these memories alive, don't forget to subscribe.